You remember. So since we're recording this, we'd like to have you unmute and ask your question so those viewing this recording later can hear the question and the answer. So I will just turn it right over to you, Dr. Trainin. And as you come in, make sure that you are muted.
All right. So it's still morning for you all. It's lunchtime for us. And that's why the real reason it's short is it's lunchtime for us. And my name is Guy Trainin. I'm a professor of education, as has been already said. I was originally a special education teacher, and that's one of the reasons that I have decided to continue with Project Para. This is a project that has been going on for quite a while at the University of Nebraska. I'll talk a little bit more about that. I do many other things. So this is a small sliver of my responsibilities, both at the universities and statewide. We are happy to share this resource, and we work hard to make sure that everybody that uses this resource has everything at their fingertips. We try to make it better every day that we work on it. At the same time, the one thing that you all need to remember is we supply the resource. In the case of the assessments in math, reading, and writing, we supply also psychometrically valid measurements. But outside of that, it is really up to you as the leaders in your districts, in your schools, at the state level, to decide what's appropriate or not, and what's acceptable or not. So we give you a wide variety of modules and opportunities for further learning for paras, but both the responsibility to choose what are the components you want to use and how to guide para educators through them is up to you. So we have a set of modules. Tamana will talk a little bit later about that, but again, it always goes back to you. Outside those 3 assessments of reading, writing, and math, those have been validated as psychometrically valid, and that's what most people use
and then we'll go over it.
The starting point.
So, hello.
Could you hear me? Was I talking to myself the whole time?
No, I can hear you.
All right. I got scared there for a second. Tamana, you go.
Hi. You good. All right. Sure. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Tamanna Kabir. I'm a second-year PhD student, and I work in the Project Para as a research associate. So the way Project Para works, we are like the support system where you can ask us questions like you don't understand how to go through it. So if you submit us a ticket, we will be showing it later on. So if there is any problem, basically I'm the first person that responds to you. And if the problem is like beyond my practice or beyond my expertise, then I request Dr. Trainin or Trevor to take care of it. But usually I'm the first contact person. And today I will be showing you how to go through the modules in the Canvas site. So I think I'll talk more about it later.
Yeah, and am I free to share? Yes. Okay. Let me make sure that you're going to see the right thing. Just a second. All right. Always complicated. Here we go. All right, I hope you can see my screen. So this is a short introduction to Project Para. Are we good? Can you see my screen? All right. And Project Para has been used around the country and the world, really, for over 20 years. So this was not started by me. This was started by Stan Vasa and Al Stuckelberg about 22 years ago. And this has been supported for this whole period of time by the Nebraska Department of Education in a kind of an ongoing grant that keeps support, not just the creation of the resources, but refreshing them and the process of maintaining and supporting the users. We now have a partnership with the Educational Service Unit Coordinating Commission, or ESUCC. We all have our special acronyms, that matters less, but we actually use their Canvas system to do the delivery. And Trevor, who was not able to join us today, is the person on that side. They do the programming, they make everything better. And so that's really critically important. We are a new group in managing this, and so is the ESUCC. So there's a lot of room for renewing. And we're really, while we're trying to serve you, we're also collecting all the information and all the feedback and trying to make the system better, smoother, with less friction, but also with all the controls, both for privacy and for making sure that only the right people get to see and be involved. So that causes a little bit of necessary friction. So when I think about friction in systems, we need just enough friction to make sure that we're doing the right thing and that people's privacy and everything around that is being kept, while making sure it's not super complicated. So it is a new system. The content has been there for a while, but we have actually refreshed about 6 of our modules in the last 2 years, and we have a plan to keep refreshing about 3 of them, because the information for paraeducators changes over time. The reading, writing, and math, not necessarily, but everything else does. So we keep working. We are working to add one new module. This is very rare for us to add new modules, but there is one new module that we are adding to our existing work. Probably in the near future, also a little bit more about MTSS, although we have a module addressing that. There's been so much work done in that area that that's one of the things we will renew soon. We have 2 sides to our system. One is the para.myesu.org. You don't need to write it. It'll come in with the materials, but that's where you as administrators will log in, and that's where most of the work starts. And then the learning management system is Canvas, and that's where the actual work is happening. One of the things that are most important is to make sure that whatever districts you're working with, the techs allow those 2 websites to interact with the systems, allow emails from them and everything else. If not, people will get stuck. We've had very few problems with Canvas, but once in a while there's a district that blocks it with their firewalls. So talking to whoever's working on IT in your districts or ESUs or whatever systems you have, it will be really important to make sure that there's clear communication, because the #1 problem is when people can't open web pages because they are blocked, or they can't get the emails from the system because that has been filtering out either to their personal spam, or the system doesn't even allow it to get to the point where it's in a spam. So that's always the first thing to check, and the most things we see. This is just to give you an overview of where we are. We have had about 20,000 paraeducators go through our website in the past, but this is a new one that's just started operating about less than a year ago, in the last few months, and we really ramped up over the summer. We have close to 1,000 paraeducators that just went through it this summer, late spring into right now. We actually did the count of 967 is from today. 619 of those are in Nebraska. Our next biggest customer or group of customers are coming from Texas. That's about 200. Everything else is a potpourri from everywhere, including South Africa, the Netherlands, and a few other places. It's really intriguing to see where people see still the relevance. And I think we're fairly special. There are a few other places in the nation that provide this, most of them not for free. But unfortunately, I think paraeducators is one of those sectors that is underserved, and they are such a crucial piece of our system that we really need to serve them better. And that's one of the reasons I do this as part of my workload. This is what you will see when you enter the My ESU, so para.myesu. But the two most important resources on this page that anybody can access are the frequently asked questions. It walks you step by step with photos, screen captures, and the little arrow that says press here if you need this. That's a great resource. And the second thing is, if you do not know what to do, and that includes paraeducators because we answer to them as well, but most of the people we deal with are instructors, district administrators, then that's the contact us. And the contact us is the #1 way to reach to us. Why? Because it gets to Tamana, who's right in front of me right now, and she decides who's the best person to take care of it. There are other ways. I mean, people sometimes send an email to my personal email. I'm less talented, and I'm not always available. So sending it to the person who makes the decision, who's the best person to solve your problem, will get your problem solved in the quickest way. So the contact us is really a good resource, and it's good information for us. On top of that, let me go to the next thing. The most important thing is for administrators to register inside the system. Once you are set up as an administrator, it is really easy for you to get your paras registered. They can register on their own and they identify where they're from, and then you will get an email saying you have to approve this person. However, if you enter them, and it's a very simple process, you just enter a name, what district they're from, what school they're from, and what their email is. If you enter the data, they're automatically approved because we say, you're a district administrator, you know who your people are, you don't need to approve them a second time. So that's the fastest way to get them into the system, but they can be the ones starting it. Once they get admitted into the system, they have 24 hours to answer an email and to verify their account. If they don't do it within 24 hours, you have to turn off their account, turn it back on, and it'll send that email again. That's very, very simple. Again, we're trying to keep things as simple as possible. And the two immediate prompts for anybody who says, I didn't get anything, is check your spam folder. And if it's not in their spam folder, they probably need to verify that the district is not blocking that email. If the district is blocking that email through the IT department, you got to make sure that they don't block it. The next thing is, and that's a problem that happens occasionally, is somebody enters their email wrong. That obviously will create a problem because that's the email we have. If it's wrong, it's just going nowhere. When communicating with our help desk, the most important thing is to describe in as much detail as possible what exactly is happening, what are you seeing. The more information we have, the easier it is. When we get, and that happens mostly from paraeducators, it's not working. We don't know what's not working. All we know is you're upset. And I understand when people are upset when they're using a system. It does take a little bit of time to uncover what's going on. There are certain things that we solve very easily and you get a response within a couple of hours, and that's fine. We try to be quick. Usually for more complicated problems, we have about 48 hours to uncover and get everybody involved. That's fairly rare, but that does happen sometimes. These are all business days, so we do not have anybody over the weekend, just so you know. Okay, a few notes for today. I'll show you a little bit of the basic function. Obviously, we'll answer some questions. We do have, and once you're registered in the system, we are having a monthly get-together question and answer. So you will be able to log in when you have questions, or if you want to listen. And if you don't, we will not hold it against you. But we've decided to do that, especially because of the new system, but also because we'd like to interact with you and hear about ideas. Once in a while, somebody has a fantastic idea and we immediately start integrating. We have a development team that helps doing that. So that's part of our plan for the future. And I'll stop sharing this and I'll just share. Yeah. Let me stop sharing if I can. Or maybe I can't. And I'm trying to find where the stop share button is. Oh, here I got it. Sometimes these things go in an awkward way, and I have stopped sharing, right? Yeah, but now I need my computer to behave, which is apparently. Do you want to show? How about you share next? And I'll.
Could you please switch off your microphone?
Yeah.
All right, I hope everyone can hear me. Okay. All right, so the first thing that I want to show everyone is about the My ESU system. This is where you are going to register your paraeducators. So this is how the actual My ESU system looks like. The web address is here, para.myesu.org. So this, the first tab, it's going to give you a brief idea about the project para. The second one, this is very important. This is what already Dr. Trenin has talked about, the frequently asked questions. Sometimes we are getting those questions which are already included in the frequently asked questions part. So if you take a look at those resources on the top right side, Project Para resources for getting started, how to register the school and district institutions, how to register as paraeducators, how to enroll in Canvas, and how to complete an assessing certificate. So everything is actually given here. So my request or suggestion would be, before you submit a ticket, if you take a look at this frequently asked questions section, I hope you'll be able to find most of your answers here. So, but still, if you do not find the answers to the questions that you are looking for, you can click on the Contact Us. So here on the Contact Us, we are a fairly small team, so please allow us like 1 or 2 business days to respond. I try to respond as soon as I can, but I'm a grad student. I'm under a lot of pressure for homeworks and assignment, but still I try to be as quick as possible. So here in the Contact Us section, you need to let us know, what do you need help with? So do you need help with Canvas, registration, or Project Para help? Then you need to write your email address, your name, and details. And when you are writing your details, please make sure to write in as much as possible. Sometimes we are getting questions like, I need help. So this is not a good question. You need to let me know which sort of help you need and how can I support you in the best possible way. So if I get questions like that, then I need to respond. Could you be please more specific about it? So in order to minimize this communication and save our time, I'd really appreciate if you give me a very specific problem, and you can submit the screenshots as well. Those are very helpful. So this is one thing that I wanted to talk about. And whenever I get the questions, this is how my portal, my dashboard looks like. So see, I still have the questions here. If I go to the question, if there is somehow a question with a screenshot, it helps me to understand the problem in a better way. So this is one part of my idea that I wanted to talk to you about. The second part is the Canvas site. So Canvas site is the actual place where you are going to take the where the paraeducators are going to take the training. So this is the Project Para. If you go to Project Para, this is how the dashboard looks like. So here on the modules section, this is where all the training materials are. So in the modules, see, so it's clearly divided lesson by lesson wise, and then we have some introduction, pre-test. After that, the lesson starts. Then we have some activities included. And as Dr. Trainin has already suggested and talked about, like it's completely based on the district administrators or the instructors, like which modules they want their paraeducators to complete. So those modules are designed in such a way is that you don't need to complete the first module just to go to the second module. Am I right?
Yes.
So you can go to the third module or fourth module if you think that this is what your paraeducator needs.
And can you show them from the homepage how to get to the Title I? Because most of them are Title I.
So
Needs.
on the home page, this is the first tab on Title I. If you click on the Title I tab, let me show it to you one more time. So this is the home page for the Project Para Canvas site. So if you want to take a look at the Title I, Special Ed, Early Childhood, so you just click on Title I and it's going to take you to the modules of Title I. So here, if you want to take a look at the assisting with reading instruction, just click on it. It's going to take you to there. The Canvas site is wonderful, but sometimes if there is any problem, if you have any confusion or question, feel free to submit a ticket. We will definitely get back to you.
And if you see on the bottom half, so there's three, the first three modules are about assisting. And when you talk about the assessment that is required, that's the content skills assessment for reading, writing, and math. Some places that's all they want to see. And in Nebraska, you need both the assisting and the content skills, but the content skills are the pieces that are validated, that are scored, and that's the one that they can get tested on. And again, while there are modules for assisting, for example, there's reading about assisting with reading instruction, it walks you through, there are exercises on the way and all of that, but in the content skill assessment, it's just the assessment. So it's a series of questions. Yeah. And so in Nebraska too, there are some states that require different things, but this is the whole thing. It's right in front of you. And that's what Nebraska schools want. But those are just 4 of the modules. We have, as you could see throughout the modules, you have more. So if you want to keep developing your paras, or if there are requirements also around, in Nebraska, there's also a requirement around special education and early childhood, you can do those as well. There's some overlap. So obviously you can use them in multiple ways.
Should I stop sharing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I will share I will share briefly what it looks like when we manage users. That is my window. Your window will be a little bit different because you have less users. No sharing? I am showing you the wrong thing. All right, I'll stop share. I'll stop share, and then I'll share the right thing. And share screen, here it is. This is the right thing. So this is what the user lists look like for your, it'll look very similar. So this is everybody. I can select a role. So I want to see all the paraeducators. Now I have access to everybody because we're managing the system, but you can see we have name and the email and in our case, ESU, district, school, state, and the day they registered. And this is the simple button. Just clicking on it will make them active, and clicking on it again make them not active. It's as simple as that. One click and they're in. If you need to add a new user, all you have is right on top, add user. You can see how simple it is. Very little information, just the basic information, and you've got a new user that's ready to use the system. If you enter them, then they can start using the system the very same day. That's as simple as possible. And this is thank you to Trevor and his team that do really a lot of work of trying to simplify and streamline that process so it's less frustrating than other places. I will show you what it looks like when I look at so I can look at any one of the para-educators and I immediately get the information. And if I want to see how much work they've done, I can see a report here that says, how much did they do? You see, this is the Title I certification. So it says exactly what out of the Title I certification, as we've defined it, they have done and how well they have done. So you can evaluate that rather quickly. And the only time where there's a problem and sometimes you can't see it, that means they haven't started the work. So if it's not responding, it's because they haven't done anything. They haven't potentially even created their profile. That's a bug that we've worked on, and I think we're fine now. And it's actually showing because I'm looking at it here. If you're not sure you're seeing the most up-to-date, all you do is you press on the refresh and it'll give you the new information. And again, up here from the top, you can navigate anywhere and be able to see everything that you have access to. We are creating some new features, like being able to group paraeducators into specific groups. And that means that if you have a large district or potentially you work with a service unit that has many groups across a large area, you can group the paraeducators in ways that helps you manage and administer in meaningful ways. This is a new feature that will come online in a few weeks, and we are really excited to make sure that works. This is all we wanted to show. This is a lot of information. This is a new system. All we're saying is the system exists. It exists to serve you. We are happy to serve you. But eventually the decision-making is always yours. And so we help technically make everything happen. Obviously on the Title I, we've also done the work on the psychometrics, or we actually had somebody else do the work. We have the report if you need it. I think Val has it. And we are excited to get new schools on. And maybe we'll get invited to come and visit. I bought this winter hat just to go visit Utah.
And I have never been to Utah yet.
All right.
Besides questions about where Guy got his hat,
We would love to entertain some questions.
yes.
Okay, this is Darlene and Logan. Okay,
Go ahead.
is there any cost associated with just the Terra modules? And if somebody opted to want to do other modules, is there any cost associated with those?
So I don't want to guarantee for the next 10 years, but we are providing this service for free with the idea that the marginal cost for us to have more learners on the system is negligible. And there might be this is true for the next 2 years. Beyond those 2 years, if we're seeing that this is creating a workload on our side, there might be. But right now, there is no cost associated at all. And it doesn't matter how many modules. So once you're in the system, you can do any and all of the modules. Yes, they can skip right to the test. That's Anne-Marie. I'm doing that for the recording, but Anne-Marie is asking, can they skip right to the test? Yes. Test proctored? No. The text is not proctored. They get the questions in random order, so they can't memorize the order, but if you think you need to proctor, that is something that you have to do.
The question right before that was asking to have you go over again how to access or request access to the system. So I think, Tamana, that might be for you.
Yeah. So this process is fairly simple. The first thing that you need to go is to para.myesu.org. And when you go there, the first thing that take a look at the first tab that is about Project Para, then take a look at the frequently asked questions section, because this is where we have actually covered all the questions that might come to your mind. We have asked these questions to ourselves, like if I am a district administrator, what kind of questions or problems that I might face, and we have covered everything. So the resources for getting started is here. Then the registering schools and district institutions, how to register paraeducators, how to enroll in Canvas, and how to do the completing and assessing certificates. So what are the specific steps if you want to register a paraeducator? Click on registering the paraeducator. We have included images. First, where you need to go, you need to select the ad user. And then this is what Dr. Training already showed, like what are the items that you need to, or the information that you need to include, etc., etc. So the registration process and everything is already given
But
there.
how do you start a new district account? So where do you go to start a new district
Here,
account?
registering school and district institutions. So if you go there, again, you need to go to My ESU, you need to go to register, and then from there, you can register a new district.
So we tried to make it as simple as possible. So it's very simple. You register for the website. That takes a little bit longer. So because we do verification, we go to your website, to your district website or ESU or wherever you're from, and verify that you are who you're saying you are. We don't want to, this is one of those things that we do need to verify. That takes a little bit longer. And then the minute we approve you, you get an email, just like a paraeducator, you get an email that says, we are approved, log in and create the rest of your file. And at that point, you can start registering new paraeducators. So give us, what we're saying is we try to respond as quickly as we can. We really do. But the verification, depending on how good your website is and all of that, might take a little bit longer. And so you need to give us up to 48 hours. Usually we can do it faster. Some districts call us and say, I need my paras to start taking the tests like at 8 a.m. They call us at 8:15. That's not optimal, you can imagine. We've all been there and we try to do our best, we really do. But a few days in advance might be a really good idea.
What other questions do you have?
Is there an approximate like length of time these modules take to go through, like just to be able to communicate that?
Yes, that's a great question. The modules are built for about an hour to 2 hours for each module. And that is for an average reader with some familiarity. Obviously, if they're completely new to education, sometimes it'll take a little bit longer just because there are a lot of concepts there. But we have kept those really limited. The tests, though, are not time limited. And we know that there's really very different speeds that people go through those. Because some people are very close, you know, sometimes we have paraeducators who actually just graduated with their BA and they're just looking for something to do, or that's the direction they're taking. They tend to go really fast. If I've got somebody who's been out of school for 25 years, it just takes time to get everything going. So the range of time is a little bit different on those, but it's 30-something questions for each one of those. So it's not a huge test that should take 4 or 5 hours. It's considerably smaller. And we are planning to add some audio to go with the text. And we have stayed away from audio and video for the longest time because we know that many of our districts in Nebraska are rural. I know that in Utah, that's the same situation. And though we have very large districts, and you do too, and then you have all the smaller districts, and you wanted to make sure that everybody's got access. So we will always have the text as the first line of defense, but we will start providing audio for the other segments as a way to provide another modality to access the information. We figure that for some people that will actually work better. And so that'll be an option, but there was always going to be the text, and it's going to be the same material. It's not going to be different, making sure that no matter what your bandwidth is, as long as you do get internet, you will be able to access the resources.
Other questions?
So Val, for Utah, are we required to have proctors present, or is that going to be optional LEA decision?
Yeah, that would be up to you.
Okay.
Could you go over the actual tests that are required? You said some of those were optional, but then I saw a text from Val that said some of it was required.
Yeah,
you
it's
review?
what we're saying is this is your Department of Education's decision. So what Val says, that's the word. And those are specified. If you go into the modules, those are specified under the Title I. So it's teaching reading, teaching writing, teaching math, and then the 3 content areas. So they show basic proficiency in reading, writing, and math is under the Title I.
If I'm remembering from our initial meeting several months back, there are 3 final exams. Is that correct?
Each one of the modules, so there are 3 achievement exams in reading, writing, and math. There are also final assessments in the teaching reading, teaching writing, and teaching math.
So essentially 6.
Yes.
Okay, so that's where I was off. In the next question in the chat, the second part of the question is, this person is assuming there's a certain passing grade.
Yes.
Will you
The passing grade sits around 67%, and that's again psychometrically determined, and they can retake it. Although again, it's up to you at what distance from times, because that obviously creates a challenge. I have had one person who has taken it multiple times and did not succeed multiple times. There are enough items where it's hard to remember them from one time to the other. That being said, there's a limit, but you have to have that conversation with your parents. We will allow retaking. Again,
Can they retake one of the 6 tests?
Yes.
Or do they? Okay, so
you
they
can
would only
take
have to take.
them one at a time, and you can retake just the one you need. You don't have to retake all of them. I'm not big on the package deal. I've been dealing with the praxis tests for teachers and the core praxis, and it's the same problem. Just one at a time and pass them and move on.
More questions?
To complete the picture, because nobody's asking questions, so I'm just going to talk. I'm originally from Israel, and Tamana is originally from Bangladesh. So we're happy to be here and to help you all.
So is it an easy process for somebody to comp out rather than do the module?
What do you mean? To go straight for the assessment? Is that what you're asking?
Correct, correct.
Yes, you can.
And is that when they go into the module, they have the option to either do it or to do
Yes.
the comp out?
And
Okay.
they can always navigate. There's navigation. They can really go anywhere within the modules. They can
Perfect,
hop
thanks.
around. We opened it all, and we're trusting them, but we're also trusting you to give them what you think they should do. Sometimes it's just about assessment and making sure they're ready and they're verified and they can start work. And I
Right.
understand if you think they're ready, just go and take the assessments and we can move on with our lives. That's great. If, however, you think, I want them really to get the content, especially on the teaching side, teaching reading, I want them to read a little bit and learn a few new things that I think are important, then you can tell them, no, I need you to go through everything. But that's, again, we're putting this in your hand to make sure that you have the capacity to do what is best for your district, again, within the parameters that the state determines. That I cannot help with, but so that's a conversation you can have. If it's a Department of Ed, then those are the guidelines. If it is within a district or within a school, that's the decisions that we let you make.
And is there a time limit from the time that either you as a district enter the candidates to assess versus an individual going out to assess? Do we need to allow 48 hours for them to have access to those modules, or will they have access immediately?
They have access the minute you enter them and they answer that email.
Okay.
And then they have access until you decide they no longer need to have access. And then you can also turn off a member. They left you or something else. You can say, I'm turning you off. I'm not serving you anymore. I don't want to see your results anymore. And that takes them off. They will, one of the things we're adding is based on the fact that we're working internationally, but also because of the California law, they will be able to ask for their records to be removed. But the one caveat about that, if they ask to be removed, they are gone. We do not know who they are. We do not reserve anything about them. That's just a right to privacy kind of thing. And state law is starting to move. So we need to make sure that we're compliant with legal guardrails. So that's the one thing that will eventually show up. We're working on that right now. And they will be able, again, they will get multiple warnings. Just know, the minute you ask to be removed, you are truly forgotten. And so there will be about 3 times that they are asked, are you sure? Are you sure you're sure? Are you sure you're sure you're sure? But then they are truly gone. Unlike, by the way, what I've learned about Facebook is that you can ask many times and you can say I'm gone, but they still keep your data for 6 months.
Will you go into the certificate of completion and how that's awarded?
The certificate of completion right now, if you meet the criteria of the 67% on the Title I, you get awarded a badge, and a digital badge that you can print out, but it's a digital badge that says you have passed the Title I. That's for the paraeducator. Obviously, the person who's managing will see that on their screen. It'll say they've completed Title I. On top of that, in the very near future, it'll actually go to your physical scrutiny. So if you're the district administrator or an instructor for that purpose, you will get an email that says, hey, does this meet all of your requirements? Because you might actually be able to specify then a specific requirement that we do not have. Like, I want you to add this module. And so you will be able to add that as well and then approve those. The advantage of the email that says this person has finished all the work to an administrator, it gives you that ping that says, yes, they finished. And you don't have to go into the system and check. That's the one thing, because some people get it done immediately, same day. Some people take a few more days. Depends on how much time they have and access and all of these things. So that's one thing that's going to change. And we are, as we change the system, anybody who's an administrator in the system will get an email about every update, so you know exactly what's changing. Now, I know not everybody reads every email they get. We are all flooded with too many emails. I completely recognize it. But the advantage is you have it in your system. So if something looks funky, you know to go and look for that email, or potentially just join our monthly conversation where we will introduce the new features and help show you what they are and get your feedback and have fun. I don't know.
If you haven't already figured it out, this is a very iterative process. And unlike the other two that are pretty, they've been developed and they don't change much. I think Nebraska has changed quite a bit, not necessarily content, but the way it's presented, the access. So that's one thing I'd like to point out. The other thing is to reiterate what both Dr. Trainin and Tamana have said, is that read the frequently asked questions first before asking for help. Know that it's free now, but if people get overwhelmed, then their costs will be instituted in order to deal with the demand. So those would be my two reiterations. Additional questions? We have just less than 15 minutes.
I have a question. I don't know if it's already been said, and I'm so sorry if it has, but if...
Okay, yeah, I'm listening. All I said is I'm people need to ask multiple times because it's a lot of information coming in at once.
Okay, is this been, so this is an approved method for Utah for paraprofessional qualifications to meet the rigorous standard of testing. They can use this, a free service now, and pass all 6 of those and then be considered highly qualified, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. And then one more question, sorry, do they have to take all tests within a certain time period? Because it sounds like there's 6 final exams. Can it be over a period of months? It's just whatever the school is comfortable with, I'm guessing.
So from our perspective, in the system, there's no time limit, whether as a state, that's Val's.
And actually, for those who've been around for quite a while, know that not much changed from No Child Left Behind to the Every Student Succeeds Act as far as paraprofessionals go. And one of the things that I found out later, after telling many people the wrong information, is paraprofessionals should be highly qualified prior to being hired, whereas many do the opposite. In fact, I just had an email conversation yesterday with a charter who had hired somebody and then was going to have them take a test or, do the assessment. So it is best practice in Utah to have them be highly qualified prior to hiring, but we also understand, especially in this time, that it's not always possible. So the faster they could get those units done, the better. And again, they could go right to the tests. They could go back just to the modules that would support them for the test they didn't pass and study for that. So yes, while they do have time, they shouldn't take the entire year to become highly qualified. There's a thank you in the chat. Appreciation for taking the time out of your busy schedules to provide this information, and also really being the only affordable assessment out there. So our LEAs do not need to use their Title I funding to pay to take tests. So this is a great option for many of our LEAs.
I hope then there's money to actually train and support the paraeducators. That's all I have to say, because that we also have a paraeducator conference and we support paraeducators in a number of ways. And that's one of the reasons our Department of Ed decided that it was worth investing. And we're happy to provide that service to other states because we know that it's always tight. There was a question from Lyle. What resource commitments to include human resources are needed? So I can talk about what's usually required. So if you do think about proctoring, that's time you need to include. The other thing that I want to say is it really depends on how many paraeducators you're managing. So if you're managing 2 or 3, we have a lot of rural schools that do that. That's literally a few minutes getting set up and then making sure that they get done, and then they don't come back to us for 3 years because they're stable. Other systems, Omaha Public Schools has literally hundreds of paraeducators. That's a lot more management, but they also have an HR department. So we try to minimize the need to have people doing a lot of management from when users create content, so they're responding to questions and all of that. That is something that needs to be monitored. So if you assign more modules, the more modules you assign, the more interaction you will need to have. We do have the ability to store all of that, but especially on some of the modules, we're asking them to write a little bit, and that'll be on your instructors to evaluate that. So, and that's a decision about how deep do people want to take and how much time. But again, it also has to do with how many you have. 300, 900 pairs, that's quite a management. I mean, I'll be honest, you know, just registering that many pairs and checking in on them will take time. Again, we will have an email that will go back and tell you somebody has finished Title I. And so that's there, but there's a level of management to having that many.
Paula, did you have a question?
Yes, I wanted to ask about the proctoring requirements. Are there, so okay, it sounds to me like a paraprofessional or a person wanting to do this could go in and take a module and then take the assessment. Is there a proctor requirement on this or what is the deal on that?
For the University of Nebraska at Lincoln, there's no requirement, and there's no requirement as far as the State Board of Education is required. It would be your responsibility to determine that at the LEA level. You want to ensure the person is truly highly qualified.
Okay.
So I would say that could come back on you if that's not something that you are doing. You know, if you're not vigilant about the parent could take it at their school, right? And they could just do that in a classroom with one other person. I don't want to create those parameters. I would love to leave that to you to determine how it would work best for you locally.
And just to add what other places are doing, most other places are simply asking for them to do it in school, and they let them have space. They don't really need supervision. And there's not a lot of things they can search online or find solutions from somebody else. And I mean, there's a certain level of trust. On the other hand, most places do not send them home to take it either.
So I heard someone ask the question, could they go straight to the test? So is it such that if they were working on would you have them work on the module in a school setting, or would you have them do that at home and then come to the school to take the assessment, or how does that work?
Most places just ask them to do it. They give them half a day and they ask them to do it in school. They can do some modules at home, especially if they're doing extra modules. I would recommend it. But yes, take the test at the school. Seems to be happening across many of our school systems. Again, it is not required. Goes back to just we're definitely not in the job of making more requirements, but it seems to be best practice. It seems to be what most places are doing, is making sure that at least the assessments are done inside the school.
Thank you very much.
By the way, and also inside the school, because schools have much more reliable internet than almost anywhere else, it also makes sure that they are not heartbroken because they got disconnected from the internet and nothing registered. They were trying to do it in a Starbucks or, you know, and a myriad of solutions that people have, or connected to their phone or whatever it is that they decided to do. And those are the places where there's these momentary failures. We hear rarely about it, mostly because most people are asking to do it in schools, but also because they know it's not our fault. It's if you have a bad internet connection, there's not much we can do about recovering scores. And so that's the second advantage of school. You're not making any assumptions about their capacity.
Great questions. We just have about 5 minutes left. So time for just a few more questions if you have them.
I have a question. So if they're taking the test assessments and there's 6 different test assessments, they take one, we'll have a score for that when they're complete. They take the second one, they'll have a score. So each test assessment will be completed on its own with its separate
Yes.
score. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And they can retake specific ones and not the whole thing.
Okay, thank you very much.
Absolutely. All right. This
One
has been
thought-
exciting.
One thought that came to my mind is as you're assigning or not assigning modules at the administrator level in your districts and in your charter schools, you could look at your goals for your school. You know, what are you really focusing on? Are you focusing on literacy? Then you might want to assign modules that have to do with assisting in instruction for literacy and making sure that that para is proficient in that academic area. So just some things to consider when you are choosing to assign or not to assign modules. Well, I want to thank Dr. Trainin, Tamana for being willing to present today and offering this assessment free of charge for now, assuming that we all read the frequently asked questions, so that we do our due diligence.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you and all that you're willing to do to create, like you said in our first meeting, Dr. Trainin, a win-win-win situation for everyone. So with that, thanks again. We'll try to figure out a way to get you to Utah.
All right.
Hey, have a great day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.